Hello, hi, and welcome to another episode of the Emma Gunn Show. And in this episode, we're going to be talking all about goal setting in 2025. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I sort of previewed this or said that this would be coming, and I've had lots of messages from listeners saying, and viewers saying, can't wait for this. I really want to get some good tips. And actually, I've had loads of incredible tips from listeners and followers and viewers, whether it's under this video or the previous video or in DM or an email, about how they set out to make a plan. And so I thought, let's just take a couple of steps back, because why do I even want to set goals in 2025? Because I think this whole idea of goal setting can be slightly performative and can be sort of slightly, I'm going to do it to sort of look like I'm on top of my stuff, but I'm not really on top of my stuff. That's how I've sometimes approached it. It's like, I'm going to talk about it as if I know what I'm doing, when actually I don't. The reason I want to set goals in 2025 is because 2024 was something of a year of instability. But the fact is, that's life. Like, you can't predict what the next 12 months are going to look like. You can't predict what's going to be great, what's going to be bad. You can only hope that you're steering your life in the direction towards the good stuff, and that you will be able to navigate the difficult stuff with ease when it does indeed occur. And for context in my life, I am freelance, I'm self-employed, so there is a huge amount of flexibility when it comes to my schedule. I can drop things at a moment's notice. If somebody says, as happened in the summer, said, I need you to write this copy for me by Friday lunchtime, I need you to film some video, this is on a Tuesday afternoon, I was like, don't worry, I can clear everything and I can get that done. That's the kind of flexibility I have. And it's great. It means that one day I can be in the mood to film, and I think, I'm in the mood to film today, I'm going to put on loads of makeup and I'm going to film, because makeup usually precedes filming. And if I'm sort of feeling energized or creative about my makeup, then usually that leads into, well, I'll get on camera. But equally, there are other days where I'm very quiet, I'm quite thoughtful, and that's when I'll do my editing, or I'll do my writing, or I'll do my planning. But there has definitely been a huge amount, I would say, this year that has been quite off kilter. I appreciate my flexibility. It's wonderful, but I think almost I've had too much flexibility, and it's time to get focused. And to that end, I also want to say that one of the things I do when I'm beginning to struggle, which I did this year, is I pull back from everything. And that means I can cancel meetings and I can feign that I'm busy, but what's really happening is that I'm in my own head. And I did that, I would say, for most of October, November, and the majority of December, to be honest, and I've really had to snap myself out of it. So that's just context for me. Maybe it relates to you, maybe it doesn't, so let's move swiftly on. But one thing I wanted to make really clear at the top of this episode was that I'm not coming at this from a position of sort of on high. Obviously, since we last spoke, I have been viewing, reading, looking at, engaging with a lot of content around goal setting. And for that reason, my algorithms on all of my social media platforms are showing me, goodness knows, just so many accounts of people saying, join me to have the best 2025 yet. My simple 7-step plan will get you feeling your absolute best. You're going to, and it's all very like, I just want to vomit, because nobody can say, do this and this will happen. I genuinely don't believe that. They can say, you can do all of these things. It's like, I can do all of the revision in the world for my maths GCSE, but what will happen is, if I've prepared well, then hopefully the questions are right. Hopefully on the day I can see what they're trying to get me to go for, and I can see, oh, they want me to talk about this kind of thing, which I can't remember now because it's so many years ago. But you can prepare and you can prepare and you can prepare. But that doesn't always mean that you'll be able to execute as a textbook. And so I find some of these things really gross. And actually, all over my TikTok feed, there's a particular journal, and there's lots of quite young, very attractive, successful girls. I call them girls because they're under 30, but they're all going, yeah, this book goes everywhere with me, and if I don't write it down, then it doesn't happen. And this is the book that's helped me like create like a multi-million-dollar business. And so, and just to say, you don't need a fancy manifestation journal to make your dreams come true or to get your life together. You just need a piece of blank paper. And this whole idea that it has to be special bound or have nice paper, or all of that sort of stuff, or have these particular prompts. Again, I almost feel like with a lot of this self-help stuff, it's like, well, do this, say what your intention is at this day, do that, have a feeling about this thing, and write down your 3 thoughts. And it's actually taking you away from developing your own framework. And so that's hopefully what you and I'll do together, because the one thing that I wanted to make sure is that we are doing this together. I'm not coming at you from a position of on high of saying, oh, if you follow me, you're going to have the best year. Yeah, I'm literally saying to you, I've had a really quite challenging couple of years that have not gone my way. We'll get into that in a minute. But I'm going to try these things because I have to try something. I have to try something else because I don't want it to stay the same. So let's just talk about that. And yeah, I've just written a few notes here, and one of them is I've tried a lot of things over the last 2 years, and to be honest, the majority of them have bitten me in the arse, I said. And I was chatting to my family about this before Christmas. I got home for Christmas and I was a bit of a Debbie Downer because I was like, oh, it's just been one thing after the other, and nothing's taken, and it's just been. And then, even as I was talking to them, as often happens when you're around supportive people who care about you, who want the best for you, I started to say, well, actually, I always talk about like data, and I always talk about reframing. Well, what about I just look at it as I've had 24 months of a really intense steep learning curve where things haven't gone my way. And they're all mistakes, they're all things I will never do again. I'll never ever try those things again because I have the data now. And if I pay attention to the data would say things like investing in high quality production doesn't make any difference for my content. Well, that's great because that's an expensive thing to experiment with, so there's no point me doing it again. Assistants don't really work for me, and I thought, because I've seen so many other people have great success with hiring assistants and PAs and all those sorts of things, and virtual PAs, I thought, well, I should have one of those too because I want to maximize my output. It didn't work for me. It wasn't the right fit. And so actually, even though it feels like, and there's numerous other things, I'm just picking the two off the top of my head, but actually I could look at it and go, there's so much good data there. You're just choosing to see it as being kicked when you're down, but maybe it's actually all serving a purpose, so that when I do next hit a streak where I feel like things are going my way, it'll be smoother and I'll be less likely to get taken off course by what other people are doing and what I think I should be doing. So let's go to the next thing. So I wanted to also reference why I have turned my nose up at goal setting over the last few years, and you've probably already got the gist of it. It's because it has become performative. It's become about expensive leather-bound journals. It's become about the type of pen that you use. It's become about what you're wearing when you're writing your goals. It's become about crystals that you might have around you to draw in the right kind of energy. And look, if that works for you, I'm never going to take it away from you, but I just think I'm definitely somebody who is rooted in slightly more, I don't want to say reality, but that just definitely doesn't do it for me. So I have moved away from it. I've moved away from it because I was very much into what I would say a few years ago. Then it seemed to take this weird sort of Barbie turn, and Barbie's great, so I don't want to sully Barbie, but it sort of took this turn of it's only for a certain type of girl and it's for absolutely everybody. So I just want to, and obviously that's what I'm getting served. I'm getting served very female, feminine centric stuff. So it's just not for me. But I am also not much of a resolution maker, and I've never set rigid goals. I've never really sat down and done this that we're going to do together, if you like. Not that I'm doing a step by step, but what I have done is I've been ambitious and I am driven, and if I set my mind to something, I will pursue it. And that has served me quite well. I mean, I would say that a lot of those pursuits haven't been a straightforward route. I would say that a lot of them have been quite around the houses. Some of them have been a little longer than they needed to be, or I might go 100 miles an hour for something, and then I might go at a snail's pace. But it's all been quite inconsistent. But the majority of the time, if I've set my mind to something, I've given it a go and I've had a stab and we'll see. And it has worked for me. And I haven't really thought to question it or to try to turn it into something else. Plus, the whole wishy-washy notion of goal setting has just kind of turned me off. And it has felt like goal setting and manifesting and whatever the various other names. I'm trying to blank out a lot of the stuff that my algorithms are feeding me because I don't want a lot of it to become part of my vocabulary. But it's felt more like hoping and wishing, like throwing a coin into a fountain, than it has about having a plan or having a strategy. We've had I find manifesting so offensive that I don't really want to give it too much time in this episode. If you've been here for a while, you will have heard me talk about it before, but needless to say, I'm not a huge fan of it because, I think it tends to, listen, if you show me a woman who's working shifts in a chicken shop who has changed her life by manifesting, I will sit up and listen. But you look online, anyone talking about manifesting is already hugely privileged. And if you're sitting there thinking, I would like this to happen, and you're already sitting in a position of privilege, then I think you're missing the point. And that's why I find it offensive. I don't want to go on about it, but I did hear a really interesting theory on manifesting recently, which opened me up a little bit to sort of not being quite so closed off to it. And essentially it was saying that if you think about something that you want, if you picture it, if you imagine it being a reality, if you can, I don't know, see the colours, taste the flavours, all of those sorts of things, and you can get it so real in your mind's eye and it sort of see it on your horizon, then it's not that it will become available to you, but it's just that because you have thought so deeply about it, when you just go about your daily life, your actions will be somewhat influenced. Oh, sorry, my light keeps falling off my computer. We're just going to have to go with it. Your life, because before I set this up, I just broke the thing that clips it to my computer. Fantastic. But your decisions, your actions, all of those things will be influenced by what you've made real in your mind. And so without realizing it, you will be making decisions that will steer you towards the thing that you've thought about. And I like that idea. It's like, I don't know, if you want to get to the sea and you can smell the sea air, you instinctively make decisions towards the smell and you avoid decisions away from the smell of the sea. I know that's very basic, but I thought, okay. And I like this idea, and I just felt like it was a lot less plinky plonky than I've seen in the manifesting space previously. Again, I said I wasn't going to talk about manifesting and slag it off too much, so let me move along. Anyway, back to my goals. So one of the reasons why I really did take against that cult of manifesting was that it didn't take into account some of the really important stuff. And I think that important stuff is that manifesting works in conjunction with things like discipline, like drive, objective thinking, introspection, critical analysis. And so it's one small element of a much bigger picture. And so to just focus on manifesting, I think, is unhelpful. And I'm setting goals in 2025. I'm really seriously sitting down to do this because I want a structure. I need a structure that will be flexible. I want a structure that will be flexible, but ultimately I want a structure. I want to know what I'm doing, and why. And truthfully, when I started planning this out, when I started thinking about this episode, I realised how much of it I hadn't been doing, how actually, without realising it, even though I'm driven and ambitious and I've got these ideas and I go for them, it's been so sort of piecemeal that it made me see how I really have just kind of been almost like floating along on luck or floating along on something, but nothing too rigid. And I haven't felt great about 2024. But by going over, and this hasn't been easy, by looking over it and looking at 2024 critically, I can see quite clearly how much I haven't been helping myself, how much I haven't been pushing me in the direction that I want to go. So the fact that I haven't been going there, and I'm like, oh, it's just really obvious. It's not. It's because I haven't been steering the boat. I thought I was, but I really haven't. So anyway, perhaps my distaste of all the manifesting and goal setting and me sort of really taking a step back from it's bitten me in the arse, because maybe that is exactly what I need. So if structure was the goal one, then that's my first goal that I want to set. Then that's a fairly simple one, right? Because shortly before I started this podcast, I opened up my Google Calendar in a full screen. I like a full screen. It's old school, I think. I can't do it on a phone. And I set up a series of repeated events. And I've done this for a while. I was doing this early on in the year and then I fell out of the habit. But so I've blocked out 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock every morning is for working out. Every weekday morning is for working out, whatever that might look like. And it's just so I can tick it off. And if I want to do a particular program, I can put those in. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll try those for the next few weeks or the next month or however. and see how it goes. And then I've got time allocated for filming, I've got time allocated for writing, I've got time allocated for editing, I've got time allocated for planning, and I have got time allocated for emails, as well as days and half days allocated for in-person and online meetings. They're really important. And again, something I've really fallen out of the habit of in the last, I would say, the last quarter, maybe even the last half of 2024. And all of this is flexible, so I don't have to be beholden to them. Again, it's important in my job to be flexible, but it means that when I open up my calendar now, there are no blank spaces. There's not a great sort of, oh God, what am I going to fill that with? It's like, oh, I know what I'm going to fill that with. I'm going to fill that morning with so Monday morning, for example, filming. It's great for me to wake up on a Monday morning, get up early, work out, do some nice makeup, get in front of the camera and film some videos. So the last thing I do on a Friday is plan the videos that I want to film on Monday morning. That way there's a nice connectivity between the end of one week and the beginning of the next. So that for me, again, this won't apply to everyone who's watching, but you can just kind of see how there's a little bit more of a flow. But also I'm learning, because when it comes to filming, I need to think about what's a reasonable and fair number of videos for me to be able to produce in that time. And that's only going to become clear after I've done it for a few weeks or even more. But equally, once I've allocated time for writing, I'll get it for this is for my Substack. I will get a sense over the course of the week of how many hours do I really need to write and how many articles am I able to produce in that time, because I started off Substack, I was doing a weekly column, and then I kind of, some weeks I was doing 2 articles, some weeks I was doing 3, and it was a bit inconsistent. And even though I think sometimes listeners, readers, followers, viewers don't necessarily realise there's a schedule, we kind of do. And I like to work towards the schedule, which is why these episodes always go live on Mondays and Thursdays. I think there's something lovely about having familiarity, about having something that you know is going to turn up in your feed. And that's what I wanted to try and achieve that's what I want to try and achieve with the writing. So again, it's like, how many videos can I produce a week if this is the filming I've got allocated? How many articles can I produce a week if this is the time I've got allocated? And again, it's going to be a learning curve. We're learning this one together because I have no idea. And I also have to take into account that those first few weeks I might be slightly more productive than we get when we start to really fill up those time blocks, like when there's meetings, when there's this, when there's that, and see how it all really works and intermingles together. So it's interesting. But anyway, I'll get a sense of all of that. But that takes care of the what am I doing with my time element. It means that I'm not looking at the day going, oh. And I even used to do this when I worked in an office. So this isn't just unique to somebody who's freelance. When I used to work in an office, sometimes there used to be so much to do. There was always something to be getting on with, if you like. But there would also be this sense of inertia, because you weren't really sure what was needed when, or you might need another colleague to do something first to be able to get. And so sometimes you'd have these periods where you were like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And it's because there wasn't a particular plan. It was very reactive. And what I have been in my freelance career this year being 2024, definitely has been really reactive. So what that really takes care of is the macro element of the goal setting, like filling up the diary. And so then when I was looking at that, I was like, okay, I need to look at the more macro ones. So I would say these are the ones that I have definitely dropped the ball on over the last 18 months, if I'm being honest, and if I'm taking responsibility for things not having gone the way that I would like. So when I was thinking about this episode, this was the stuff I realised that I needed to have underpinning all of those big things. So if like the big diary tasks, if the big filming stuff, if all of that kind of stuff, if that's the big stuff, there are these pillars that I need to put in underneath that will actually support all of that kind of stuff happening. So sounds daft, but I've always been really impressed by how many books Ruth Quilly reads. And again, I think just before I started recording, she posted a Substack and it was like all of the books that I have read this year, and it's so many. She's a prolific reader. I love reading, but I get so easily distracted these days. So I thought, okay, a really simple thing for me to do would be to say, okay, I'm going to read more, and I'm not going to set myself a crazy goal. I'm going to set myself a goal of 1 book a month, which is nothing really. But from where I am now, it's everything. I think in the last 12 months, I've devoured 3 books. And then I read lots of articles, I engage in lots of content online, I do a lot of research. So I always feel like I'm reading, but I haven't actually sat down and read a book. And I received Jay Rayner's book for Christmas. And I also received a book called Blood Money, or I borrowed a book from my dad called Blood Money. And so my intention is to start with Jay Rayner, because I feel like that's an easy one in, and then go to Blood Money. And I'll be charting all of this on Instagram, by the way. So if you want to kind of see these things as they happen. But again, we're kind of finding this all out together. It's just about sitting down and having a bit of a look and taking stock of what one has been doing and how one would like it to look different moving forward. Because that's the thing, I started watching all these YouTube videos over the weekend, and it was like, write down all the things that you would do if you wanted to have your worst year yet, and then make sure you don't do them. And I understand that, but I also think it's a bit much. So I just kind of wanted to take it back. One book a month, all that's set to change, because yes, I'm going to set myself the goal of reading one book a month, and hopefully the idea is that if it's one book a month, then I'm not going to finish on week 2 and then not read a book for 2 weeks. So maybe I'll pick up more during the course of the year. Who knows? To say I can read a book in 30 days is pretty reasonable. Anyway, something else happened shortly before all of this, because I started to look at my diary. I started to think about the macro tasks and the micro tasks. So, for example, I started to think about emails and staying in touch with people, something I'm actually quite bad at doing. And I think for a long time I was very lucky in that I had a job where a lot of the interest would come to me, and now it's kind of flipped, and now the interest has to come out from me. And so I was trying to think about, okay, how many emails should I be sending a week? And so again, I've gone through my outbox, I've looked at my work emails, and I realised that particularly in the last 2 months, there's barely been anything. But if I look at sort of a productive month from this year, I'm probably sending about 150 emails a week. And I was breaking those down, like how many of those are really. And so now I've set myself a number for the number of emails I think it would be useful for me to be sending with actual like intention, not a hi, fancy a coffee, but hey, I'd like to have a coffee to discuss this. I think it's making action happen. And I have just not been doing that. I've been a little bit too laissez-faire, I would say. So I'm trying to get all of those micro tasks underneath the macro tasks to actually have a purpose. And so that would be my advice to you. And so really the takeaway from this is being accountable for not just the bigger goals over the course of the year, and we can check in every month, but also to be constantly accountable to all the micro stuff. And to that point, I was actually on Substack reading Anna Newton's piece. And Anna, if you know Anna Newton, she's the Anna Edit. She is very organised. I would say this, she's very organised. Like, she has her wardrobe is all pictured, and she can like create an outfit from her phone in the morning. Like, she's kind of like peak when it comes to organisation. And she talked about this app called Notion. And I remember downloading it a couple of years ago because I think, again, she had mentioned it. And I couldn't make head nor tail of it. I was like, oh God, it's just like having another nagging thing on my computer telling me to behave or do this or do that, and I don't like it. And I couldn't get the colours to look right, so I didn't use it. And so what I've done is I actually downloaded it. This is during the writing of this episode, because at the top of this episode I talked about how I got my Google Calendar up. I've now moved everything into the Notion calendar, so I can actually separate things from work, personal, all that kind of thing. And I've now got them as full screens so that I can swipe between them. That Notion for task planning and also for the calendar. And again, I'll have to come back to you about whether this is any good, because I didn't realise it would require quite so many watching tutorials to kind of get the gist of it. But what I really learned from going through my year, from being analytical and saying, right, okay, this didn't go the way that I wanted to, and it's because I didn't participate enough, or because I didn't push this enough, or because I wasn't as involved as I should have been. All of it's kind of on me. So this has been a real wake-up call of, you need to absolutely get your stuff together. You say all the right things, you do all the right things. No, you say all the right things, but you're not doing all the right things. And so I'm pushing myself to actually really do this year, and ask questions, expect no's. Like I think I said on the last episode, I really want to develop some long-term partnerships with brands that that I use and love loads. And I'm going to reach out to those people, and the chances are some of them are going to be like, no, you're not really in our plans, and it's going to suck and it's going to hurt my feelings because I'm going to take that personally. But I would rather know that that's where they are at the moment and maybe revisit it than wonder why we're not working together. So ballsy Emma 2 point whatever coming at you in 2025. So that's all happening. So Notion is also something that I'm learning to use, but this is very much, if you were here for 26 Habits, this is very much me kind of sitting on the precipice going, I don't really know what, well, there's my light's gone. I know that, I know my light's gone. I don't really know, she says, leaning down, what, oh, this is high tech. This is high tech, this is great, isn't it? I don't really know what this is all going to look like, but I think it's going to be a big old mess. See, this is, I know you might be thinking, Emma, this is embarrassing. Everything's crashing all over the computer. But this is a damn sight cheaper than paying for very, very high-end production that no one really wants. I think people kind of seem to like it when you're a little bit imperfect. So I'm going to lean in. Oh, I'm going to lean into imperfection in 2025. Oh, I hope you've enjoyed this comedy element of this episode. I'm not editing it out. I refuse. I think this is real. This is real life. This is what it's all about. It is a bit of a mess, and sometimes you have to course correct on the hop. And I think I would say that I've definitely I lost some wind out of my sails in 2024. And so what I'm trying to do is kind of put it back in, because it's sad and it's a bit depressing, and it's easy to fall into thinking that it's just not a great year for everybody, and it's just how it is. But actually, what's been really good about going through and looking at my calendar and looking at how many emails I send and looking at how productive I've been, I can look at it and go, you have not participated nearly enough. And if that's the one thing that you can control, then participate, get involved, get going. So this is sort of the beginning for all of us. Again, I'm not sitting here and telling you how to make 2025 super productive. We know that setting goals is really good emotionally and mentally for getting your head in the right space. We know that it's good to have something to work towards. We know you get an incredible sense of achievement once you start to tick those things off. And that's all great to talk about. But the first thing I think you need to do is figure out, what do you want? I've sat down and asked myself, what do I really want in 2025? Or what do I want to be different from 2024? And that's what I can begin to action. And as those things begin to come together, I can share them with you on here, on Instagram and on Substack. But for right now, I feel like I would take any more input, any more breaking down of how to really get these things to work. And also, I would just be really curious to know if anyone else has had that kind of year where they've just felt that it's just been a bit of a slog. But at the same time, when you actually take a step back, you think, maybe I have actually taken my foot off the gas, because it has been, I've spoken to so many friends who just are limping towards the end of this year. And I'm not surprised we all feel a little bit like we haven't really got it in us to push much further or faster. But I think it's time to kind of buckle up and enjoy the ride and get involved. But let me know what you think. Let me know how you would like me to share the upcoming goal setting with you. I'll put the link to Notion in the show notes. Again, I'm having to watch a lot of tutorials, but I think the juice is going to be worth the squeeze. So I'm going to stick with it, and I will probably update you on that in a few weeks when I've hopefully got the hang of it. But let me know if you've got any tips for goal setting. Let me know if you've had a similar year in 2024. Let me know if you're also on the cusp of turning it around and how that feels for you. I'd love to hear from you. You can DM me on Instagram, or I'm at Emma Guns. You can comment below this video on YouTube. You can email me on office@emmaguns, and you can office@emmaguns.com. And what's the other thing? And you can also go and subscribe to my Substack, where I'll be talking about this in a slightly different format from this, i.e. without lights falling off and without everything being a complete mess. I will promise I'll do spell check before I publish my Substack. There won't be any lighting issues. If you've had a rocky 2024, I'm here with you. I'm sorry, it's been a tough one. But I think 2025, I think we can make magic happen. So stick with me. Let me know how you get on, and let me know what else you'd like to see from me in terms of this kind of goal setting. And if you'd like me to be a bit more specific, I feel like I don't need to wang on about my specific goals, because it's about your goals. But let me know if any of this has been helpful in all of the ways that I have shared. And I can't wait to hear from all of you to let me know how you've been getting on and what you have planned for 2025, because I have a feeling it's going to be incredible. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one.